No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 453. Good evening, all. Good evening to Tommy Early in the live chat who says, so glad to make the live today. Well, I am glad to have you here. Thank you very much. Now, breaking today. Matt Goodwin has been exposed in a brutal civil war on the right of British politics, as even those within Reform UK start to turn on their Gorton and Denton candidate following his deranged attempt to get Restore Britain supporters cancelled from British politics.
I feel very sorry about the young activists between the ages of maybe 18 and 30 who have just wrecked their political careers by going down this cul-de-sac. Hello, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Restore. All right, what do you believe? Yeah,
you should be deported.
We believe in mass deportations. They will fade into irrelevance. This will be like the National Front in 1979, 300 candidates and like 0.6% of the national vote.
Now, his toxic cancel culture obsession has completely overshadowed the launch of the book he thinks will end up seeing him leaping to the top of Reform UK.
We are losing our country. You walk down the street and you feel like a foreigner in the place where you were born. You move through your cities, your towns, your villages, and yet you no longer recognize them. You hear languages that are not your own. You pass symbols, behaviors, and cultures that were not here before.
But this book is turning into a growing disaster for Goodwin, with accusations that he plagiarised Douglas Murray's book title. He's now facing calls from Tim Montgomerie, the star of Reform UK, to be investigated by the party. That's as Restore Britain supporters react in fury.
Sorry, I'm not understanding what the purpose of your fucking book is, you snivelling little piece of shit. What's the point of your book then, Matt? When you laugh down the face of people that actually, say, hey, here's the solution to this problem that you are pontificating about.
And some of the sick tactics of the Restore Britain haters seem to have been exposed by Connor Tomlinson today. He was visited by police at his house this morning after false allegations that he had abused his wife.
Yeah, I do believe it's to be malicious, if I'm being honest with you. The lady has explained a few things to me which would make me believe it is.
And all of this comes as a bombshell new poll shows an unprecedented open fight for power in British politics. So today, we're getting into it all with my good friend Mike Graham, independent media sensation. Now he is the host of the brilliant Mike Graham Show on YouTube and Substack. And Mike, I think we might disagree over this one. What do you reckon?
We may well do. I mean, it's funny, isn't it, how these people are fighting like rats in a sack. It's like, would you stop fighting, please, already? And I mean, the big worry about your intro there is that, you know, and by the way, the police showed up at somebody's house because somebody said that the guy in the house, Connor Tomlinson, who, by the way, I've made up with, you may not have heard this, but
I did hear that.
I met him.
I knew you two would get on.
And basically, you know, how ludicrous is this that the police are turning up because some maniac or politically motivated individual wants to report you? I mean, that could happen to any of us, right?
I know, utterly chilling stuff. And you are right. Of course, we shouldn't all be fighting. But at the moment, there is this push to sort of say, if you're part of Restore Britain, you're wrong. And I don't like that. But look, we'll discuss it, Mike, in just one moment. And also coming up on the show today, Mike's with us for the full day, by the way. A Sly News presenter has been exposed for hosting Sadiq Khan's act of Islamist domination in Trafalgar Square and another hammer blow for the MSM. Eamonn Holmes, accused of falling asleep on air again at GB News as his co-star Ellie Costello apparently falls out with the broadcasting legend. And Boris Johnson, well, he's finally lost it by advocating for the return of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to the UK. Come on, Boris, as if the Boris wave wasn't bad enough. Trust me, that is the last thing we need. King Charles and Princess Anne have both been heckled again today by anti-monarchy campaigners, so I will show you that video too. Then we're moving across to Substack for the Royal Uncancelled After Show, where a drug dealer bombshell has haunted Prince Harry in a dramatic final day of evidence in the delusional Duke's crazy case against the Daily Mail. So Angela Levin is going to be here for that, and we will reveal the shocking scenes in court. You can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. Of course, we've also got a worst Britain in the world to crown today. Myself and Mike Graham have nominated for this. So my nominee is Matt Goodwin for these attacks on members of Restore Britain. Mike has gone for Ed Balls. This was really shocking. I don't know if you saw it, but he asked Dove Foreman on Good Morning Britain whether Nick Timothy's criticism of Sadiq Khan's event might have caused enough division to make someone want to firebomb Golders Green. It was terrible. And he's also gone for Hugh Edwards, although we couldn't see him there. Oh, there we go. There we go. Because he's got the absolute nerve, Mike says, to complain about the Channel 5 drama about his fall from grace as if he has any right to demand anything. So there you go. Goodwin versus Edwards versus Balls. Who will be our Union Jackass today? Get voting now. Keep your comments coming in throughout the show. But now, let's go. So Matt Goodwin is laughing at you. I repeat, he is laughing at you. Principle in politics, don't be so fucking ridiculous. For this man, power is everything at any cost. And I know lots of you love Matt Goodwin, but I've got to explain to you his past, why he's gone from the hope not hate aligned academic slamming Tommy Robinson at every opportunity on the British bashing corporation to Douglas Murray wannabe, literally ripping off the Spectator columnist book title in his latest AI piece of slop, something readers of his Substack will be completely used to. Maybe that's why he's now nicknamed Matt GBT. But look at this. Look at this. So on the right, you have Douglas Murray's book cover, and I can show it to you there in full. The subtitle, Immigration, Identity, Islam. So what did Goodwin do? He took the three words and he just slightly changed the order and decided to go for immigration, Islam, identity. Now, the claims about this book and plagiarism and AI have sparked a civil war today within Reform UK, with the party's high-profile Tory defector Tim Montgomerie arguing the whole controversy over Goodwin's book reminds me of the early warning signs that Rachel Reeves's dodgy footnotes provided about her. Reform should now fully investigate Mr. Goodwin's book, and if there are repeated examples of factual error, he should be removed from the candidates list. We need our future MPs to be trustworthy and credible. Goodwin hit back. What Reform should do is stop taking Tory wets like you. All you do is criticise Reform in our campaigns. I have no idea why you are even in Reform unless it is to try and weaken it. Now, you've got to remember in all of this that Goodwin believes he will succeed. Nigel Farage as Prime Minister or leader of Reform UK. And this book is the attempt to move on from his failure in the Gorton and Denton by-election.
Millions of people in the United Kingdom now share the same feeling. It's overwhelming, it's unavoidable, it's a feeling we'd rather ignore, yet we know we can't. It can be described in just 5 words. We are losing our country. You walk down the street and you feel like a foreigner in the place where you were born. You move through your cities, your towns, your villages, and yet you no longer recognize them. You hear languages that are not your own. You pass symbols, behaviors, and cultures that were not here before. The country of your childhood, the country described by your parents and your grandparents, no longer lies before you. It exists now only in old films, fading books, and nostalgia reels on social media. Suddenly, the country that you search for, the country that you yearn for, the country you thought you would carry with you forever, is nowhere to be seen. It feels as though, without warning, it slipped away before your eyes. You haven't left your country, and yet you cannot shake the feeling that your country has left you.
But even nominally conservative outfits like The Critic are having a field day with this Goodwin book, describing it as a suicide of an author's credibility. They wrote, it reads like the book of a political operator extending his CV. The left-wing commentator Andy Twelves caused a stir on social media by pointing out various factual mistakes and what appear to be non-existent quotes. 12s speculates that these quotes are the result of AI hallucinations, which is plausible, if not proven, in the light of the fact that 2 of Mr. Goodwin's sparse footnotes contain source information from ChatGPT. There is a lot of highly dubious sourcing. Mr. 12s did not exhaust the number of questionable quotes in the book. A nation that cannot defend its borders, Goodwin claims the Roman historian Livy wrote, will soon cease to be a nation. I can find no record of this quote. Language is the tie that connects past with future and binds together the citizens of the same nation. Goodwin claims that Noah Webster wrote that, but he says again, I can find no record of this quote. To be fair, perhaps Goodwin has one, but he should have included more footnotes. He's an academic. How did this not occur to him? But far more sinister to me is Goodwin's total 180 as a human being, as a political operator. And as Britain Has Broken put it, delivering the receipts. For years and years, Matt Goodwin colluded with Hope Not Hate and other far-left entities to attack the so-called far-right, even branding UKIP, Nigel Farage's former party, as extreme. Matt Goodwin is controlled containment. He does not believe in mass deportations and is not to be trusted. And remember, Nick Lowles, that absolute terrible man who runs the paedophilic organisation Hope Not Hate, actually endorsed Goodwin with a quote. He said, I think this work is really welcome, and I think the more we understand about the extreme right, be it the BNP, be it UKIP, be it the EDL, the easier it is for groups like ourselves to campaign against them. So they were working together. And for a while, I have to say, Matt Goodwin's Damascene conversion was okay with me, because I always believe people have a right to change their mind. But the problem is that now, Matt Goodwin is somewhat evilly, in my opinion, trying to cancel supporters of Restore Britain, just like he used to do with the so-called far-right UKIP members as a leftist academic. Now, regular viewers know I am not aligned to any political party. Outspoken is proudly independent. We welcome all voices on the right. In fact, I celebrate and support any man or woman engaging in an effort to save our disunited kingdom from the socialists or the communists, be that as a conservative, a reformer, a restorer, a UKIPper, or a member of Advance UK, the Social Democrats, the Heritage Party. All of those people have a home on this show and have a voice on this show. Indeed, when Goodwin was campaigning in Gorton and Denton, I offered to travel to the constituency to interview him in an extended format for Outspoken, given I had no off-communist limitations before the by-election. That was an offer he swiftly rejected. Propagandists only, you see, for Goodwin. But what I now see him doing to a talented group of young people who are prepared to put their country first is twisted. And it's because of his own personal ambition to become a Reform UK cabinet minister at almost any cost. So as a result, he's going to gaslight you into believing that there is only one option. There is no reason to hope for better than the weak source centre-left policies now being advocated by Nigel Farage. And the man standing in the way is, of course, Rupert Lowe, who proudly announced today, I am delighted to officially become Reform Britain's first Member of Parliament. I intend to be one of hundreds at the next general election. So this is where Goodwin comes in, slamming Restore Britain's growing superstars by saying in a sinister and threatening manner that they have wrecked their political careers forever.
And I feel very, very sorry, if I can just lastly say, I feel very sorry about the young activists between the ages of maybe 18 and 30 who have just wrecked their political careers by going down this cul-de-sac. They could have been really interesting, important people in our country's history. They could have been really significant people. And because they became detached from political reality, they've lost all relevance.
But it got worse as Goodwin compared Restore to the National Front and said its 120,000 members, after just a few weeks, by the way, are wasting their time.
Right-wing vote.
They won't destroy the right-wing vote.
As you mentioned,
They
I
won't
think
destroy
they're on
the
a
right-wing
Puritan
They won't destroy the
Puritan
right-wing vote.
spiral.
They will fade into irrelevance. This will be like the National Front in 1979, 300 candidates and like 0.6% of the national vote. They might get a couple of council defections here and there. They might get a few votes in places like Great Yarmouth. But what they are going to do ultimately is waste their time And at some point in their lives, they are going to have to look themselves in the mirror and ask themselves the question, what did we really do to save Britain?
As Basil the Great responded, the only reason Restore Britain exists is because Reform UK betrayed everyone and became Tory 2.0. They use exactly the same smears. We're not settling anymore. We're taking this country back. But it actually got worse on that Winston Marshall episode as they were literally laughing at what Goodwin described as the utterly absurd idea of Restore Britain campaigning. Watch.
And, you know, when I was campaigning on the streets, one thing that I was thinking about, because at the time we had a bit of online hurrah about, you know, new parties being formed and all the rest of it, I was thinking how utterly absurd it would be to watch some of those people campaign in Gorton and Denton, right? Knock on the door, boom, boom, boom. Hello, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Restore. All right, what do you believe? Yeah,
You should be deported.
we believe in mass deportations. Oh, right. Oh, what else do you believe? We believe in remigration. Oh, what's that? Let me tell you something. It's completely divorced from political reality. The people who are pushing those ideas have never canvassed, have never campaigned, have never spent a serious amount of time with the British people.
I have to be honest with you, that made me angry to watch, and I'm not the only one. Here's the take of Nate H. and Bo Dade on the state of politics.
That's fine, Matt, is it? Suicide of a nation. It's so important. Oh my God, we're losing our. Sorry. I'm not understanding what the purpose of your fucking book is. You snivelling little piece of shit. What's the point of your book then, Matt? When you laugh down the face of people that actually, say, hey, here's the solution to this problem that you are pontificating about, that you are profiting from. This kind of rhetoric, this extremist rhetoric, which I agree with, right? It is extreme, but it's full blown. What you're saying is true. But then you laugh at people that actually have a solution to it. You are the worst type of person, Matt. You're the worst type of person.
Yeah, I've never believed Matt Goodwin's redemption arc from being writing in Hope Not Hate and talking about infiltrating and subverting the right. I've never believed any of that.
And the Restore Britain rising stars who he is talking about have eloquently hit back too, including Connor Tomlinson of Tomlinson Talks, who posted, given matters referring to me and my friends here, I had considered responding. But the fact he's been reduced to making passive-aggressive threats to the greys of men half his age who he used to compliment and have to write his Substack posts after losing a by-election in the exact way we warned, while plugging a book written using ChatGPT, speaks for itself, really. But to see the disgusting techniques anti-Restore Britain campaigners, including, it is thought, those within Reform, are now using is really shocking. Look at this.
Are you recording?
Yeah, may as well just back up.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. I've turned mine off just so you know.
That's fine.
Yeah, I do believe this to be malicious, if I'm being honest with you. The lady has explained a few things to me which would make me believe it is.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's just you know, whether it's my job or some sort of disgruntled ex-friend or something.
So yes, that is the police literally at Connor Tomlinson's house today. He explained, just had the police show up at my door investigating an anonymous domestic abuse and coercive control allegation made against me. 2 officers spoke to my wife and concluded it was malicious and politically motivated. The police were professional and apologetic. I won't share their identities when they were just doing their job. They shouldn't have their time wasted like that. But this is a new low. Disagree with me about anything you like, but leave my family out of it. Now, Restore Britain spokesman Charlie Downs wasn't taking Goodwin's arrogance lying down either, writing, Goodwin has some nerve to lecture us about being detached from political reality when this is what he was doing last month, alongside this video.
Don't let Mad Zap hypnotise you into voting Green. They want to legalise all drugs, crack cocaine and heroin. They want open border chaos. Keir Starmer looks like a robot. doesn't understand the British people. Vote reform. Put Gorton and Denton first. A vote for Goodwin is a vote for Gorton and Denton. Vote reform. Get Starmer out. It's time to sack Keir Starmer.
I don't know if it's more Alan Partridge or David Brent, but Charlie Downs added, if this is your idea of a serious, credible politics appropriate for the existential crisis Britain finds itself in, I'm glad you don't approve of us. And listen to the line of attack. It's not that we're wrong, but that we are, quote, wrecking our political careers and losing all relevance by speaking frankly about the measures necessary to save our country while refusing to take part in the all-singing, all-dancing Nigel Farage show. Here's the difference between reform and restore. We aren't interested in making peace with the political establishment for the sake of our careers. We don't measure our success by our relevance in Westminster drinking circles. We won't talk endlessly about Britain's problems and make good money doing so, only to call our supporters racist when they suggest solutions. The British people are not stupid. They do not need to be spoken to like children, and they are tired of Westminster types like you doing exactly that. Montgomerie Tom's weighed in too, saying, who are you referring to, Goodwin? Young men are rising. We recognise that we don't want to inherit a demographically replaced country, a problem you have played a massive part in accelerating. We are the future, you are the past. And recent Restore recruit Karen Mishak wrote, too many in Reform and other political parties have become blinded by the lure of power and money to remember why they joined all this for in the first place. It was to stand out rather than to fit into line. It's sad to see some people I was very close to in Reform, who used to be outspoken and proud, fall into line because they're scared to take risks and go against the narrative. I know I made the right decision. It was a no-brainer, really. Restore is where my heart lies, and it was from the start, like plenty of others. But I have to be honest with you, Goodwin has shown his true colours over the past week, and I know there's going to be lots of you who love him and who are saying, Dan, why are you attacking someone who is overall an ally? Because I actually don't think he is. He has shown this week that he has utter resentment and disdain towards ordinary Brits, working class Brits who make up a party like Restore and Reform, by the way. As World by Wolf explained, Matt Goodwin actually said on a podcast that ordinary people are too stupid and incapable of running Britain, and that the only way to fix Britain is to have a bunch of former Tories in charge. Don't believe me? Here's the clip. Even by Goodwin's standards, this is tone deaf.
Okay, let me just say though, let's just go to history for a minute, because I think history is probably most instructive. There was an anti-establishment political party once upon a time, and it was full of ordinary people. It was full of plumbers, farmers, electricians, workers, people with...
That sounds like the Green Party.
People with very little political experience. And it captivated the mood of the country, and it took off in the polling, and it did really, really well at a national legislative election, okay? Was considered to be the first real populist movement in post-war Europe. And that movement was the French Pujadist movement, comprised of outsiders and anti-establishment people who were convinced they could take on Paris and redirect the direction of their country. That movement almost immediately collapsed on collision with power, because it turned out that when you fill a political party with amateurs and inexperienced activists, however well-intentioned they are, however much they believe in the country, the end result is often complete chaos. The stuff that's going on over here is batshit crazy. But British people will never, ever, ever get behind Restore in a big way. It will never happen. What will happen is it will be 1979 and it will be standing 300 candidates and getting 0.6% of the vote. I'm 100% convinced of it.
Oh, yes, a party of plumbers and electricians and farmers. What a disaster that would be, right, Matt? Let's take a party of Tory failures like Nadeem Zahawi instead. And on the issues that really matter, Goodwin isn't prepared to be radical with Basil the Great, explaining, wow, Matt Goodwin admits they want to assimilate migrant communities. This is why they kicked Rupert Lowe out for supporting mass deportations and remigration. Reform have no intention of reversing mass immigration. They want to adopt these people into Britain. Watch.
And what I'm saying in the book, at least in the last chapter, How to Fix Britain, saying, look, we need an entirely new regime for the people who are already here. And in essence, that is about going much further towards assimilation. I think integration is a meaningless word. Assimilation. We need basically people now to assimilate into our community, speaking English, contributing economically, respecting our rule of law, playing by the rules, and basically becoming part of our community.
Why do you reject the word integration?
I just think it's pretty meaningless.
What's the difference between assimilation and integration for you?
Well, we want people to assimilate into our country, our culture, our shared sense of collective memory, and our way of life. We don't want people to integrate and maintain at the same time something else, something that is not part of us. We want people to fully assimilate into who we are.
Okay, so compare that to Rupert Lowe's position, which he spelled out very clearly this week, writing, with many of those who have arrived in our country legally, integration is impossible. They don't speak English, they refuse to work, they hate us. Forget integration, we are so past that. They should be deported. Now, I'm also going to be honest about Matt and the political reality in the UK, because I think he is lying to you about that as well. Yes, I totally concede that Reform UK is going to have a massive local election result in May. Restore Britain very likely to run outside anywhere other than Great Yarmouth. But I do think it's all still to play for in the general election. And indeed, the polling today shows a continued slide for Reform UK. And yes, it is YouGov with Sly News, which I know underplays Farage's party. But remember, it also doesn't accurately poll for Restore at all at the moment. And you see there 4 parties, really, within the margin of error. As Andrew Neil wrote, a remarkable poll, 4 parties grouped around 20%. Is it even possible to do a seat protection on such a result? P.S. Good to see Ed Davies' lot doing so well. All these stunts really paying off. So, the right is divided, but in terms of who wins the next election, I believe all is still to play for. Now, Mike Graham is here. Mike, how am I wrong?
But I think you're going a bit early, is all I would say. Because I think the thing is, right, that the biggest problem Reform have had is finding enough, sort of believable, credible candidates, right? You might say that Matt Goodwin is not a credible candidate. I mean, I share your view and the views of others that, when he stood on the top of that bus and said, Keir Starmer talks like a robot, he is a robot, you got to go, well, mate, you know what? And maybe you're not the best person to make a judgment on that. And maybe he wasn't. I mean, I think Reform knew they weren't going to win Gorton and Denton. So they threw that bone to him to say, look, do your best, see how you get on. It may well be that he gets another go, but I don't think he was ever going to win it, because I think the Greens rule was going to come through with the Muslim vote. The Greens rule was going to do what, Hannah Spencer, the fake plumber, does, which is to go and celebrate Eid Mubarak and say prayers with them all and break bread with them all, not knowing that, they'd all not welcome her into the male door of the mosque if she went on any other day. So I think Matt Goodwin is a kind of a fall guy, if you like, for Reform. I don't know Matt Goodwin very well. I've had him on my show a couple of times. I also, like you, offered him the chance to come on my show during the by-election, because we spoke to Nick Buckley from Advance. And I said, it's only fair that we give you a chance, similarly like you, not bound by Ofcom. And he didn't want to come on. I don't know why, but I think that
that's pathetic.
Yeah, I think so. Because, you will probably say that I would be more sympathetic to Reform than you would be. I'm like you. I mean, I have no political allegiance. I have nothing against Rupert Lowe. He and I don't get on particularly well because we've had a couple of spats on Twitter. But we had Orla Minahan on the other day.
Who's now Restore Britain.
Who's now Restore Britain. We've had, several people on from Advance. We've had Ben Habib on, and Nick Buckley on a couple of times. We have had Howard Cox on, So the point is that I think Reform have had a real struggle finding enough credible candidates and credible councillors and making sure that they vetted them to make sure that they haven't done anything really, really bad. And I think Restore Britain will have that, but they'll have it in spades, because they'll be trying to find even more people to stand for election, whether it be in the 2029 general or whether it be in the local, although you say they're probably not going to put too many people up. And it is a problem, because if you really want to be a powerful force in British politics, you need to be able to find 200 or 300 people to become MPs. And I'm not sure that Reform are going to be able to do it, never mind Restore.
Well, the problem is Reform have set themselves these ludicrous standards, and this is what I hate, which is that they run away from anyone who makes a comment which is maybe a little bit colourful. I mean, I've just been looking over the past few moments. There are now calls for the Scottish leader in Reform offered to resign because he made some joke about George Michael, a gay joke. I don't care. Like, I literally do not give a shit. And there are other people who are like having to step down or being forced to step down because maybe they posted in support of Tommy Robinson at some point. So that's why I quite like the Restore Britain approach, which is that just because there's hysteria around some of our supporters, we're not going to throw these people under the bus. But Mike, what did you think of Matt Goodwin actually saying that these people in Restore Britain are wasting their time? I found that really unpalatable, because it's like, surely everyone has a democratic right to back whatever party closely aligns to their view.
They do, for sure. But I mean, it's his opinion, right? Which he's also entitled to have, you know. And Bo there had a go at him, called him a snivelling little shit, whatever it was. You know, they're all having a go at each other and calling each other names. It's not really the point. Surely the point is to debate the issue, right? If Matt Goodwin thinks that you can integrate or assimilate millions and millions of people who have come here and brought members of their family from Pakistan, and that's all going to be fine and dandy, he's probably barking up the wrong tree. It's probably not going to happen. However, equally, we also know, having watched what's been going on for the last 20 years, you can't just deport people. I mean, it was only the other day, Shabana Mahmood came out and said, as the Home Secretary, we're going to start deporting illegal migrants before they get a chance to appeal. And I'm going, no, you're not, because you won't be allowed to, because somebody will step in, some lawyer will step in and say, you can't do that. And in fact, not only can you not do that, I want compensation for my client, and I want you to give him a house. And that'll be the end of that. So I don't know how, I mean, I don't have any answers here, by the way, Dan. I don't know how you get out of this problem that we have, which is a massive problem, by the way. We are we are encaged with the lion, effectively, in the middle of the circus.
Do you worry that Reform are tacking too much towards the centre ground, or sometimes even the centre left? Like, they seem obsessed with trying to get Labour defectors now.
No, I don't think so, because I think they have their eyes firmly on the prize. I think that they have to win, because if they don't win and we get Labour in because of some kind of ridiculous kind of, you know, tactical voting by the Lib Dems and by the Greens and by Labour all kind of back ganging up. If they gang up on Reform, who are, I think, the only people who have got a chance of winning, I think we're in real trouble in this country, because I doubt that Restore will be able to organise themselves with enough decent people, with enough decent, you know, candidates to win an election. I'm not that worried that they'll split the vote, because we saw what happened to Advance up in Manchester, up in Gorton and Denton. You know, they got less than the Monster Raving Loony Party. You know, so where does that leave them? And I think today their treasurer has just defected to Restore Britain.
Edward Oakenfold, yeah, I saw that. I mean, look, I think that Restore Britain are a totally different kettle of fish, and I have a huge respect, actually, for Ben Habib and Advance UK and everything that party is trying to do. But if you just look at the fact that 120,000 people have already joined Restore Britain, that means they've got coffers filled, right, of more than £3 million, just like that, overnight. So I think they are a force. And I think the other big difference is, of course, that Rupert Lowe is in Parliament. And not only is he in Parliament, he is one of the most effective politicians in the country, maybe one of the most effective parliamentarians that we've had in recent history. So it's an interesting one, but I think Mike Graham is making a big mistake. I did actually see he had said that he would debate that guy, Andy Twelves, who has made all of these revelations about his book. But he said, Mike, he won't do it here on Outspoken. He won't do it on the Mike Graham show. He's saying, it will only be done on GB News. And it's like, come on, Matt, you're terrified. You're actually terrified. You're a scared little pansy, Matt Goodwin, because if you weren't, you would come on the Mike Graham show. You would come on Outspoken. Come on, to say that we would not host a fair debate is just ludicrous. But GB News literally hires the guy and is a reform propaganda channel these days.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's what Alan, you and Alan Rusbridge agree with each other for the first time ever, I think.
God, that's terrifying, given how much that bloke hates me and I hate him.
Yeah, quite right too. But the thing is this, right? At least Matt Goodwin has said to this guy, Andy Twelves, okay, he challenged me to a debate. Let's have a debate. Let's do it tomorrow. I don't really mind where they debate, but I'd like to see Andy Twelves. I'd like to see the laying bare of these claims, because if it turns out that Matt Goodwin has plagiarised the book, or if he's had ChatGPT writing it, I mean, it's pretty embarrassing for a start. He will become the Rachel Reeves of the Reform Party, you know. I don't know whether he's done that. I haven't read the book. I'm probably not going to read the book. I've got no axe to grind against him. But I just don't think he's got very much popular kind of appeal, is what I would say about Matt Goodwin. I don't think he's got much charisma. He's a little bit wooden. He's kind of a bit of an academic as well. And if I'm Nigel Farage, I would put, if I had a tiered system of who is going to be a superstar in my party, I don't think Matt Goodwin would be one of them.
No, good point. Good point, actually. On the Super Chat, Steve Taylor says, does Goodwin think Restore will campaign in predominantly Muslim areas? No wonder his arrogant campaign failed in Gorton and Denton, and it is a very good point. I mean, they would be mad to do that, wouldn't they? Breaking right now, I have exposed a major scandal in regards to this Sadiq Khan Islamist takeover of Trafalgar Square. If you need any more proof that the MSM are seeking to destroy this nation's culture, then look no further than Sly News, who I can reveal had one of their actual news presenters, Saima Mohsen, host Sadiq Khan's Islamist display of domination that has dominated the news agenda. Mohsen, who has been a presenter since 2022 at the broadcaster, was seen on stage with London's failed mayor celebrating Eid, something she even boasted about on her personal social media pages.
Amal, I have to say, it is such a unique privilege and honour to welcome you into Trafalgar Square tonight, and such a unique privilege to accept your message of hope. Thank you, Amal. Thank you, Amal. Amal, everyone, let's have a round of applause for Amal and her message of hope.
Can you believe Sly News allowed their presenter to be at this blatantly political event where Khan tried to show the world that London has indeed been conquered?
We'll have more people doing iftar here today than ever before. We think we're going to break the record for the biggest iftar, not just in London, not just in UK, not just in Europe, but in the Western world. Trying to cower us and scare us to be less Muslim, to be less Islamic, to make us scared, to put our head above the parapet.
So here is the host of Khan's event hosting the news at Sly.
Hello, this is Sky News Today. It's 2 o'clock. The headlines. Hundreds of arrests in Russia of people mourning for Alexei Navalny as Russian authorities are accused of avoiding handing over his...
Now, I sincerely doubt that this was a gig she picked up out of innocence. Mohsen has demonstrated plenty to indicate that she is indeed a radical leftist. So let me show you her photograph, smiling, with the country's race beta-in-chief, Dr. Scholler. She invited her buddy onto her show to spread her claim that everything is racist without challenge. Watch.
This is a unique discrimination for black women. It even has its own label, doesn't it? Misogynoir. How do we draw that, cross that bridge, really, between people who recognise it or the racial gaslighting of saying that it's just a joke, it's okay, it's just banter?
It starts with people understanding that misogynoir is a distinct expression of hate from racism. So Black women are experiencing intersecting inequalities and injustices because we embody multiple representation. So it's not good enough for people to just go, oh, that's just racism. No, it's not. It is racism and it is misogynoir. And this is what incites the violence and racial trauma against us. That is what we experience. When people belittle our experiences and act like it's nothing or just apologize, what they're doing is triggering that racial trauma and they are validating the misogynoir against Black women. And what
Mawson has also posted a photograph on her Instagram promoting the anti-white racist book, a vile book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, saying it should be on every school curriculum. Now, this is a troubled woman, by the way, because before signing up to Sly, she worked for the uber-woke CNN until she later sued them for unfair dismissal, disability discrimination, racial discrimination, victimization, and complaints about the gender pay gap. But it's not just the disgraceful iftar domination display that Khan and Mawson took part in that's contributing to this attack on Britain's soul. Just like last year and the year before that, the flag of Pakistan today raised over Westminster Abbey. That prompted Tommy Robinson to write, Westminster Abbey, founded in 960 AD, 40 coronations and 16 royal weddings, houses the tomb of the unknown warrior, reduced to flying the flag of a sandpit of inbreds formed in 1948, one of them now London mayor. Scores gang-raping Britain's kids non-stop since arriving. And there's also a foreign war on our streets, as the Jewish community lock horns with anti-Israeli news organisation Al Jazeera for reporting on the ground following the Golders Green attack yesterday.
Is Al Jazeera, who has been just spouting out anti-Semitic content for months. I cannot believe they have the temerity to show up to this event right now.
Now you can go. Go take your briefcase, go take your Al Jazeera equipment and go. No one needs Al Jazeera. No one wants Al Jazeera over here.
And can you believe that after that terror attack last night, Starmer actually went ahead to celebrate Eid in Downing Street while pathetically trying to convince us of his concern for the Jewish community?
Eid Mubarak, it's fantastic to welcome you all here to Downing Street. I'm proud to stand here with you today to celebrate Eid and reaffirm my unwavering support for the Muslim community. Everybody in this room stands with the Jewish community today in the light of the horrific anti-Semitic attack in Golders Green. I met with Jewish community leaders to discuss how we can strengthen our support and solidarity, because that is what my government is about, standing with all communities and standing against division.
Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. You don't stand with all communities, Slippery Starmer. Certainly not white working class Brits concerned about the devastating effects of immigration that you dismiss as far-right thugs. And by the way, look at this. From Subversive Force on X, who revealed the truth about some of the most subversive Islamists around who were invited to attend this party with Slippery Starmer at Downing Street. They included Sabina Hussein, co-founder of the propaganda engine Muslim Creators Network, along with Baroness Goher, Saudi Qatar-funded rigged Islamophobia working group member. Furqan Naeem attended. He works for the government-backed and taxpayer-funded British Muslim Trust, is a buddy of Imam Adam Kelwick, pictured with Naeem at Buckingham Palace, who celebrated the October the 7th atrocities. Kelwick controversially attended last year's Downing Street iftar. Kelwick's mosque is currently subjected to statutory inquiries by the Charity Commission. Then, in the background here, Mustafa Field, director of Faiths Forum and part of the Muslim mafia that has been brought into City Hall by Sadiq Khan. Asful Khan MP's latest stunt was to demand that Nick Timothy be invested by the Parliamentary Commission for Standards. It failed as Timothy was cleared, but he was there too because Islamophobia is his political fixation. So, Mike Graham, there is an Islamist takeover going on, but can you believe, and this has not been reported anywhere, by the way, that the person presenting that Islamist show of domination in Trafalgar Square, organised by Sadiq Khan, was an actual Sly news presenter, someone who we're told is meant to impartially report the news to us. This is nuts.
It is nuts. And also, isn't it the case that the person as well who was behind the organisation of that iftar is a man who Keir Starmer had previously shunned because of his rather, shall we say, close connections to Islamic fundamentalist terrorism, right? And so you've got this whole kind of situation. I mean, the one thing that amazes me is that they got a woman up there with Sadiq Khan, because she's the only one I can see, to be honest. I'm not quite sure how
there weren't any women praying, were there?
No. I mean, I don't know how they allowed her up there, because it doesn't seem as though they like many women up there. But yeah, but the whole idea that somehow this is now London in 2026 is completely and utterly offensive, I think, to most Londoners. I was born and raised in London. I've lived here most of my life, apart from a few little pauses when I went and lived abroad and went and lived outside of London. But, this is not London. I'm sorry. People are absolutely outraged by this because it is, like Nick Timothy said, an episode and an illustration of we can do what we like. We're going to dominate you. And if you don't like it, we're going to come to your house and arrest you for being an Islamophobe.
And then you saw Slippery Starmer last night, Mike. I mean, it's almost like the time, you couldn't make up the timing, could you?
No.
The guy did not go to Golders Green. He sent Wes Streeting to Golders Green. Do you know who else didn't go to Golders Green, Mike? Sadiq Khan.
Of course he didn't. And I actually heard somebody on his staff say, oh, the mayor's very busy. Really? Can you imagine if somebody firebombed a mosque? What would be going on? Can you imagine the scene that would be made by Keir Starmer and by Sadiq Khan? And Keir Starmer's so thick, by the way, he doesn't realise he's already lost the Muslim vote to the Greens. They're not going anywhere near a Labour candidate anymore because he's screwed it all up. But let's not forget, this guy celebrates Eid more than any Muslim I know. He organised an iftar inside Westminster Hall where he had that really oleaginous, awful moment with the so-called ambassador for Palestine. Do you remember that? Where the guy comes up to him in the middle of Westminster Hall, one of the most hallowed, historic places in Britain, right? It's where Oliver Cromwell made a speech. It's where several kings have been asked to speak and where kings have been sentenced to death. I mean, it's just horrendous, right? This guy has sullied the history of Great Britain. He allows this Palestinian to kind of grab him by the arm. I mean, if I was a behaviourist and I looked at what was going on there, that looked to me like Keir Starmer was this guy's gimp. He might as well have had the gimp suit on and the zip across the mouth, because that's how it looked.
Yeah, exactly. Keir Starmer looked like he was in a gay relationship with that bloke, and trust me, he was the bottom. If you know, he really was that terminology,
not in a good way. I mean, I'm all for gay relationships if they're consensual, but that didn't look consensual to me. Sorry.
No, and it's just like, do you honestly expect us to believe your bullshit crocodile tears, Starmer? Because we don't. We don't. You do not give a shit about the Jewish population who are not safe in this country, because everything is now about securing the Islamist vote. Now, by the way, I completely agree with you, Mike. They don't realise it's too late. It's gone. It's going to the Greens. It's going to those madmen independents, who are aligned with Jeremy Corbyn. But for someone like Wes Streeting, he can literally see his political future slipping through his fingers. The only way he can survive as an MP, and by the way, it's the same for Yvette Cooper, the same for Angela Rayner, the same for Jess Phillips, is by cozying up to Islamist extremists. And it's sick because it's what they're doing.
It is, and it's appalling because that's where we are. And going back to our earlier conversation about Restore Britain, it's no wonder that Restore Britain will get support from ordinary people who live in these communities where this is going on all the time. Where, it's not unusual for you to walk down the street, like Matt Goodwin actually said in his book, and not recognise it and see nobody. Remember the trouble Robert Jenrick got in because he said, I walked down the street in Birmingham, didn't see any white people. That's the reality of loads of parts of Britain now. Not all of it, but loads of parts of it. And the bottom line now for me is that the Labour government is done, right? It's completely over. It's finished. It can't do anything. I mean, I put out a tweet at the weekend because Keir Starmer, even as Iran was firing missiles at Diego Garcia, a UK territory, was wishing everybody a happy Ramadan for everyone celebrating the Muslim faith around the world. And I put out a tweet on top of it going, they're actually firing missiles at us, you complete bozo. And of course, the usual lefties came and went, oh, they're not firing missiles at us. And are you saying all Muslims are firing missiles? Well, no, but the Iranian regime is firing missiles and they're celebrating Ramadan at the same time. Apparently, you can't eat for 12 hours, but you're okay killing people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know? And that's before you even get to the cover-up that's going on, Mike, in regards to Mandelson. And I'm going to go into this in some detail tomorrow. But, you know, this claim that Morgan McSweeney, he just had his phone stolen. And, you know, the Metropolitan Police just didn't have a chance to investigate.
No.
Yet their stories are changing all the goddamn time. This is as believable as, remember, when Rebecca Vardy's manager lost her phone.
Yeah. Well, do you know, we did a poll on my show just yesterday, right? And we said, where is Morgan McSweeney's phone? Is it at the bottom of the sea? Is it in Lord Ali's penthouse? Is it in his other coat? Or is it up Peter Mandelson's backside? And believe it or not, the winner was it's up Peter Mandelson's backside.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. That is something.
These are the joys, Dan, of doing what you told me to do years ago, which was to go independent. Because can you imagine if I'd been at Talk and said, here's the plan, right? Here's the poll I'm going to put out. They'd be like, no, God's sake, don't do that.
We've got to have a laugh because actually, if we just looked, Mike, at what was happening and didn't have a laugh sometimes, it would be too depressing.
Oh, I know. Well, I had Will Geddes in today, who's
great.
an expert in all of this, right? And I have a little experience in this area, as you probably might remember from last year. It's complete bollocks, right? That you don't have a backup. All he's got to do is get himself another phone, take it into any of your local high street phone retailers, and have them download the cloud, and he'll have all the messages back. You know, the idea that they're trying to get us to believe that he's lost his phone, the dog's eaten his homework, we can't ever see them again. It's complete nonsense.
It is. It is total nonsense. And as I say, he's done. He is done. But the cover-up that is ensuing at the moment is quite something. Breaking today, I have been sent new footage of Eamonn Holmes falling asleep on GB News for the second time. Now, this comes as the Daily Mail reports that I was indeed right, that bosses at the right-wing broadcaster had asked Eamonn to take some days off following concerns of his health. The Mail also reporting that there is now a major row going on between Eamonn and his co-presenter, Ellie Costello. Now, I know the person who is trying to stoke this row, and it's the other host of Breakfast, Stephen Dixon, who is desperate to take Eamonn's job. So I want to show you this new video that I have been sent. It has been removed by the broadcaster off YouTube, but someone inside sent it to me and said this was the second example that bosses were aware of Eamonn falling asleep while live on air. Watch.
Bombers, the most strikes.
Well, this comes as the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Dragon finally left.
Now, remember, the other example did go viral. Watch.
Well, the first thing to say is some of that reporting is just not true. It's right to say the NHS app was always going to be separate to the gov.uk app. That's a decision that we took very early on, primarily because governments have already spent a lot of money building the NHS app and it works really well and the public like it, and we don't want to slow that down by attaching it to a new project. But the Department for Education has no issues with the programme at all. Just to recite though, kind of what is it? Digital ID is the ability to log into the gov.uk app and then prove who you are. And by being able to prove who you are, we're able to bring services that are currently across different departments and call centres and services into one place for you on your app, should you wish to use that. And we just think that will be easier for people to use than the current system of call centres and paperwork and hours on hold and not really knowing whether you're where you are in the process, which is very frustrating for the public and ultimately quite costly for the taxpayer.
Darren Jones, thank you so much for your time. We're out of time with you, I'm afraid, this morning, but thank you for joining us on GB News Breakfast.
And we'll see you bright and early again in the morning, whatever you're up to. Have a good day. Andrew and Miriam, next.
So the Mail has now followed up my reporting last week, which GB News tried to deny. Katie Hind reporting in the newspaper, so diminished a figure has he become that Eamonn appeared to fall asleep live on air last Wednesday in what was surely a first for a television presenter. And during the same show, the normally lucid Eamonn was virtually incoherent as he struggled to question former Cabinet Minister Robert Jenrick in an interview, much to the politician's evident bemusement. Now, we have got that clip too. Let's just have a look.
Totally agree with you, Robert. Thanks very much indeed for your comments and your contribution this morning.
Have a good day.
Thank you, same to you. And a clean day. We'll all think about that as well. And you know, Robert, everybody can play their part in that, about keeping the streets clean and tidy and what they do with their rubbish and all that sort of thing. But this stuff won't magically disappear. It needs all of us to take part and be part of all of this.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Mr. Jenrick.
The Mail continued, while a spokesman for Eamonn has said he is on annual leave. Sources at GB News tell me that he was told to take time off. More than this, bosses are currently holding crisis meetings to decide how to deal with the increasingly difficult Eamonn problem, as it's now known within the network. For not only his on-screen performances becoming more worrying, not long ago he fell off his chair while the cameras rolled, behind the scenes his struggles to maintain the energy levels and performance required to be a presenter on live television are, I'm told, causing carnage. One employee goes so far as to tell me that his job is now hanging by a thread. So is it finally curtains for Eamonn's long TV career? Those close to the situation describe it to me as sad and embarrassing. To a certain degree, there is sympathy among some for the 66-year-old whose agonising back pain is now so pronounced he relies on a wheelchair and a team of carers to live his daily life. And yet, that said, Eamonn remains as tricky and obstinate a character to deal with as he ever was, perhaps even more so since his marriage to Ruth Langsford ended. It's this abrasiveness combined with his deteriorating performances which is provoking such fury among his colleagues. Indeed, GB News bosses are facing mounting pressure from his co-workers who are frustrated by their flagship host's failings. Live TV is a brutally competitive area. If you don't cut the mustard, the exit normally quickly beckons. So it's little wonder that his colleagues say Eamonn gets away with murder and is living off past glories. I'm told at the top of the tree, they just think he passes the Tesco test. If he walked into any supermarket in Britain, he'd be instantly recognised by customers. And yes, that has a value. They'd just prop him up in his chair and keep him going forever. But the reality is the issues are growing by the week. He might have the profile, but he's becoming more and more difficult for people to work with. A lot of the other male presenters think they could do a more professional job, while the women who work with him feel like they're propping him up. Meanwhile, he's earning the biggest salary. Perhaps one of the most discontented by Eamonn's performance is his co-presenter, glamorous Ellie Costello, 32. Sources at the network describe her as on the edge over their partnership. She replaced Isabel Webster, who previously co-hosted Sky News' Sunrise show with Eamonn and then went to GB News. Isabel and Eamonn were once close friends, but she left her role as his sidekick in 2024 after their relationship turned sour. When the vacancy arose, Ellie jumped at the chance to take over. Now say those who know her at times she wishes she hadn't. She's at the end of her tether, says a source. Ellie is a trooper, but working with Eamonn is not an easy task. Just look at the women he has been paired with over the years. It usually ends in nasty rifts and feuds. He monumentally fell out with Anthea Turner when they shared a sofa in the GMTV years. And it certainly wasn't always easy with Fiona Phillips when she was his co-host, as he could be very condescending. As for Ruth, they split up after sharing a sofa for This Morning, and then Eamonn and Isabel also had a huge falling out. He seems to struggle with his female co-stars, as Ellie is now discovering. It's worse than ever now, though, because he's unwell and tired. Ellie is having a nightmare. I'm told GB News bosses are aware of Ellie's difficulties and are keen not to lose her. In Eamonn's defence, his job isn't an easy one. An on-air time of 6 a.m. means he's up at 4 a.m. Perhaps that's why I'm told he appeared tired behind the scenes last week when asked by colleagues how he was feeling. They got an angry response from him. And it's not the only frustrated outburst that has taken place. It's unravelling, says a GB News insider. He's trying to soldier on, but it's causing a lot of aggravation behind the scenes. It appears a once illustrious TV career is now sliding slowly to the end. The solution, though, is not instantly obvious, particularly as Eamonn is not the kind of man to go gently into the good night. One source said those at the top have a sense Eamonn would not go quietly. He needs the money, after all, and he is under contract, and it's not easy to sack someone over health conditions. So look, Mike Graham you're obviously a breakfast superstar. You know how difficult it is to get up at this time of the morning. And I do just want to put a little bit of context in here to say, clearly I have sympathy for Eamonn Holmes. I'm not being an arsehole, as some people think I am. But the fact is, I have been sent this new video of him falling asleep live on air for the second time in a couple of weeks. I do think that warrants at least some discussion. I mean, it would if anyone fell asleep while on air. At the same time, I mean, this is the new moment, Mike, which, as I say, hasn't been picked up until now, and he does appear to be asleep. I will also say, though, Mike, there is some really nasty shit going on behind the scenes at GB News, and this dude, Stephen Dixon, wants Eamonn out, and he's stirring the pot, and Stephen Dixon is best friends with Ali Costello. So I'm just trying to just paint a little bit of context, because I did see Eamonn Holmes a few months ago at Nana Aquare's engagement party, and I know he was very upset by all of the briefing that was going on to the Daily Mail. So anyway, that's the context. I don't know if you know Eamonn, because I know he worked at Talk.
Yeah, no, I do. And Eamonn, I like Eamonn, right? He's a fantastic professional, and he's obviously struggling at the moment. I don't think there's any question about that. And you're right. When somebody as high profile as Eamonn Holmes is falling asleep live on air, you've got to talk about it, But I've always got on really well with Eamonn. I think he ended up at GB News, more fortunate for them, I think, than it was for him at the end of the day. Because without being unkind to him, I would say the most surprising thing is that the audience isn't falling asleep every time they present the show, because it's that boring, But so, and you're right to also. I mean, one of the things he said to me was that he once did Drive. I think it was before you did it or after you did it. I can't remember at all. And,
yes, I took over him.
Okay, so he did it for a while, and I remember, he used to say to me, "How do you get away with the stuff you say?" Because at one point he said something that Meghan Markle was a bit uppity, right? And he got completely flamed by people on Twitter, on social media. He was attacked. How dare you have a go at Meghan Markle? Being racist. And of course, he'd never had anything like that when he worked at ITV. And he said, "How do you do it?" I said, "Well, Eamonn, it's because everybody loves you. They think you're a nice guy. And now you've come out and said something horrible about Meghan, which wasn't that horrible. Welcome to my world," kind of thing. So I think. The problem is, I think it would be fair to say, and I don't think Eamonn would disagree with me, that sometimes people work in a job like that for too long, right? And to be honest, GB News should have a much more responsible attitude to somebody like Eamonn Holmes. He's a superstar. He's one of those presenters who everybody loves. Everybody's watched him, as you say, recognised in Tesco's. What they should say to Eamonn is, look, it's difficult getting up as early as you get up in the morning. You've obviously got some health issues. Why don't you come in and do a guest slot on the mid-morning show? Or why don't you come in for an hour? Why don't you, we'll keep paying you the same money. This is where media companies need to show some, compassion. And, Eamonn has done great things for them, as he has in his whole career, and they should look after him. What they shouldn't do is put him through this kind of humiliation, because I blame them for this, right? It's not his fault. If he's suffering with his health, which we know he is, and if he's struggling to wake up in the morning and do the show, which looks like is also the case, then GB News have, I think, a responsibility to look after him and to do the right thing and to say to him in the nicest possible way, Eamonn, why don't you take a step back? We love you on the channel, rather like they did
with Alistair Stewart.
With Alistair Stewart, when he obviously was diagnosed with dementia. That's what a responsible broadcaster would do. I just think they're not doing that.
And how do you cope with the mornings, Mike? Because, I wake up with you and you always have so much energy. Like, do you have a tip for it? Like, is it a Red Bull or what's your way to get up and get going?
The greatest tip I can give you is napping. I love a nap. I'm a bit older than you.
Like in the afternoon?
In the morning, actually. I come home from I finish normally around 10, apart from a couple of days we're doing Plank of the Week, which you are on this week, by the way.
Yes, I am. My first ever time on Plank of the Week. I'm so excited.
I can't believe it's taken us this long to get you on Plank of the Week. But,
I can't wait.
So Thursdays I work a little bit of a longer day, and I get home around about 2 o'clock. But every single day I come home, I get home around about 10:30, and I just have a half an hour nap. And then I go off and do what I do the rest of the day. And obviously, I don't burn the candle as much as I used to. I mean, there was a time probably a couple of years ago, I would sometimes be out till 10, 11 o'clock at night. I'm too old for that now. I have to be in bed by 10, pretty much latest. And it's a shorter show than I used to do at Talk. So actually it feels like I've got away with one, you know?
Yeah, well, you're doing very, very well, Mike. The show is absolutely flying, isn't it? The Mike.
It really is. And again, I know I haven't seen you for a while to talk to you to say thank you, but you know, I still always say, if it wasn't for Dan Wootton, I don't think I would have been doing a breakfast show because I wasn't sure what show to do. And you were like, do a breakfast show. I was like, okay. And you encouraged me and you gave me so much hope of how it would do that I was like, well, this is great, you know. And so, you know, we just passed through 12 million views this morning, having been on since beginning of January. And I know that's a small number for people like in your position, but 145,000 subscribers. We're killing the YouTube market. I call it the biggest YouTube breakfast show in Britain because it is.
Yeah,
right?
By far. I mean, you're smashing your old employer.
Yeah.
I mean, like, your numbers in the morning, what, sort of like 4 or 5 times more than what Talk's now getting?
Yeah, easy. Absolutely. Every single day. And it's steady. You know, it didn't start and then kind of go down. It's rising and it's steady. And we're learning as we go, like you did.
Yes.
How to build the numbers, make them bigger, continue to. So we're very happy with how it's going.
But the thing is, Mike, this is where everyone is going to have to end up. I mean, I don't know if you saw this hilarious thing this week of CNN is actually turning its old school news presenters who are paid millions and millions and millions of dollars in these big posh studios, trying to turn them into podcasters. Like, so they're putting Anderson Cooper in like the newsroom with his tie off and a microphone like this, and they're putting Jake Tapper in his office. And it's like, you can't fake it. That's the problem. You can't fake it.
Well, Sean Hannity started doing it at Fox, you know, because Fox had these glorious, fantastic offices in that huge building on 6th Avenue in New York City. And suddenly he's doing it from a little broom cupboard because he wants it to look like your show or my show or, you know, or our studio is actually rather
yours is huge. By the way, that's my favorite that we just saw. Let me just show you again, right? So Vanessa Feltz is trying to do it too here on Channel 5, Mike. But look, you know that microphone is fake. Because she's actually, can you see she's got a lapel microphone on there, like pinned to her. So it's like that she's got a prop microphone. And that's meant to convince us that this is a podcast. It's like, no, it doesn't work. What works in the independent space, and I'm sure you acknowledge this now, Mike, is that we have true independence and freedom to go wherever the news agenda takes us, to be truly independent, not to have our strings pulled, not to feel that pressure of cancellation or this is what Rupert Murdoch thinks or this is what the Sun thinks. And that does make a difference.
Oh, it does. And to say what you think, and authenticity is what people like, and it's what they want. You know, they don't want any longer, you know, the fakery of the fake news brigade. You know, they don't want these people from BBC, these kind of, you know, people that get churned out of BBC central casting. And you kind of go, who's this guy reading the news from Washington? You know, I didn't know he was working there. There's thousands of them, you know, and they're losing money. BBC are talking about launching a whole bunch of YouTube channels. You know, too late, guys. Everybody's already left the building. Sorry.
And if there's one organization not needed on YouTube, it's the BBC, the British bashing corporation. Seriously, piss off. Just leave YouTube to us, please. Can you believe this? Boris Johnson, who I think is now a discredited figure in so many ways in British politics thanks to the Boris wave of immigration, has made his most unpopular call yet by arguing for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to return full-time to the United Kingdom. He says all is forgiven and that we should welcome these two hustlers and race baiters back to the country. Well, I say piss off, but this is part of a really sinister strategy. It's called Operation Thor, and they're trying to gaslight us into thinking that the royal family's in trouble, and so the solution is for Harry and Meghan to come back. Now, we'll get into that in just one moment, but first breaking today, 2 senior royals have been heckled again by the anti-monarchist group. I can't stand these scumbags, Republic, on official visits as the British monarchy struggles to distance itself from the Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor Epstein scandal. So let me show you what happened. This is King Charles being heckled on his way to St Austell in Cornwall today on a visit focused on community work supporting young people. Watch.
you covering for Prince Andrew? How long have you known about Andrew? How long? Hey, why are you covering? Why are you covering for him? How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
And here is Princess Anne being heckled outside Wadham College at the University of Oxford as she attended the 100th annual conference of the Agricultural Economics Society. Watch.
Anne, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
How long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
What did you know and when did you know it?
How do you know about Andrew and Epstein?
When will you answer the question?
Come on, can you leave Princess Anne alone? Seriously. She's just turning up to the annual conference of the Agricultural Economics Society. Think how boring that's going to be. Leave Anne alone! Come on! But this is what's really shocked me, actually. Boris Johnson, so he was Prime Minister at the time of Harry and Meghan's Megxit, and now he has revealed what went on behind the scenes and a simple message for both him and his wife. Writing a truly deranged column for the Daily Mail, he said of the Sussexes, I noticed how much zing they seemed to add, how people's eyes lit up when they came into the room. I had vaguely concluded that Harry and Meghan were a national asset, and I decided to see if I could talk him out of leaving. So sometime in the middle of the morning, our officials cleared a meeting room. We were standing eyeball to eyeball. As I say, I felt I could speak to him in an avuncular sort of way, as if offering career advice. I think one of my brothers was briefly in the same class at school, Eton. So basically what he's saying is I was speaking to him, Eton to Eton. And he cleared his throat and had a bash. He said, I honestly think it's a pity. I think there is so much good you could do here, so many causes, why not stick around? That was the gist. And effectively, Harry said no. So Boris said, I may have delivered Brexit, but I could not avert Megxit. And I am reminded of all of this because I saw a brilliant piece in yesterday's Mail by Jan Moore in which she mentioned that after 6 years in Montecito, things are not going quite as swimmingly as they were. And he went on to say, come back, the pair of you, come back to Britain with your heads held high. I don't care what anyone else says. It looks to me as if your American sojourn has been a triumphant success. According to one report, Meghan has managed to sell not far short of 1 million pots of jam. That's a lie, Boris. She's got millions in the bloody warehouse going off. It's why Harry was right back then to ignore me. And while they were right to go to America, that's why there are so many former UK PMs stacked in a holding pattern over New York or Chicago waiting for clearance to give keynote speeches. In other words, to make lots of money. That's why so many talented Brits go to America. Gordon Ramsay, Harry Styles. There is no disgrace in going to America, giving it your best shot and then jacking it in. Robbie Williams did it, so did Piers Morgan, and One Direction eventually went in both directions. If Harry and Meghan come back, they would, of course, have to smooth things over the rest of the family. Understatement of the year, Boris. Seriously. They would return as an important signal of confidence in this country. So I say, help us stem the Starmer hemorrhage, swim against the tide, show a lead, Harry and Meghan, come back to poor old Brighty, cheer us up with your jamtastic household tips and your richly comic family feuds. Above all, get back into those conspicuously thinned out royal ranks and champion some things that really matter, like educational equality and injured veterans. You once did a great job. When you were allowed to, you can do it again. Come back, Harry and Meghan. All is forgiven. Now, I'm sorry to describe what went on between Harry and Meghan and the royal family as richly comic family feuds is one of the most disgusting understatements of all time. These two cretins literally accused the British royal family of institutional racism as Prince Philip lay on his deathbed as the late Queen Elizabeth II was battling bone cancer. Prince William will never forgive them. And you want to bring them back to us at a time, by the way, when their charity ventures have failed, when their business ventures have failed, when they've been dumped by Netflix. I mean, seriously, I used to be such a supporter of Boris Johnson, but this man has lost the plot. He is so out of touch with the British populace, and I'm really suspicious as to what this is all about, Mike Graham. Like, what is Boris Johnson actually doing here? Who is he working on behalf of? Because there is no public demand to welcome these two cretins back to the country, or am I missing something?
No, you're absolutely right, Dan. And I think the problem for Boris is that he's a bit lost. He doesn't really know what to do. He hasn't really got a job now. He hasn't been given a peerage. He hasn't been given a UN ambassadorial role. I mean, he was forced to appear on Laura Kuenssberg's show a few weeks ago, if you remember, shortly before the whole Iran thing blew up, talking about sending British troops to Ukraine. You're kind of going, sorry, mate, nobody here wants British troops to go to Ukraine. Nobody in their right mind wants to give any more money to Ukraine. And certainly nobody wants to support Harry and Meghan in their quest to completely humiliate themselves and end up in the poorhouse, because that's where they are going to end up. And you're quite right. The idea that she sold 25 million quid worth of jam is for the birds. You know, she's never sold, 100,000 quid's worth of jam, quite frankly.
No way.
It's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. And I see that she's off to Australia. She's copyrighted the As Ever brand, and she's going to land in Australia and she's going to get booed because people hate the woman. She's ghastly. She's toxic. She's horrible. She's ruined a young, once promising man who's now a husk of his former self, who cannot even stand up for himself and who looks for all the world like he doesn't even want to be anywhere near her. And it's kind of a tragedy in a way, but Boris has got it completely wrong. And I think he needs to have one of those holidays up in Scotland again and see if he can get swept out to sea like he did the last time. It might wake him up a bit.
You're so right to raise this Australian trip, though, Mike, because it is absolutely astonishing. Like, how desperate is this woman? Someone who had the world at her feet, who the late Queen Elizabeth II said, you can spend your life advocating for the Commonwealth. Now she is going to charge poor Aussies $3,000 to spend the weekend with her at a hotel where the pool isn't even open, apparently, and strangers have to share bedrooms with another person, yet still pay $3,000.
Yeah, well, the grift is on. Very clear to me. I was talking about this on the show the other day. Obviously, what's going on here is some guy in Australia has gone, I'm starting up a wellness retreat. Who can I get to come and promote it and see if I can get some publicity for it? I know. I'll ring up the grifters in chief. I'll pay them a couple of £100,000. They'll come to Australia and I'll get loads of publicity, and lots of idiots might go there because they might think it's the home of, celebrity wellness. And that's what it's all about. It's completely a commercial deal. They're trying to make out that it's a semi-royal visit, right? It's not. It's literally Harry and Meghan on the grift, hoping against hope that they get a free goodie bag at the end of it that might have a Rolex in it. I mean, it's that shallow.
It really is. But don't you think, Mike, this puts even more pressure in a way on the king? Because things are really bad, right? Yeah. We can't deny, I'm a big royalist, I'm a big monarchist, and you can't deny things are bad. And there's even now this pressure in terms of the Home Office trying to block security for Prince Harry because officials are quite rightly fearing that there would be a public outcry if the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex were relying on us to pay for their security. But the problem there, Mike, is that we're in a situation where you've got Andrew Mountbatten Windsor relying on King Charles for money, and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle may well be coming with the begging bowl soon.
Yes. Well, that's the problem for King Charles, is that Andrew has thrown a complete spanner into the works, because no matter how much you and I detest Harry and Meghan, they haven't done quite what Andrew's done. And so supporters of Harry and Meghan, although there are fewer of them now than there used to be, will say, well, hang on, why are you treating Harry so badly? He went and served his country in Afghanistan. He does the Invictus Games. You can find one or two positives, And meanwhile, here's Andrew, a guy who lies down in the back of a car, who spent several hours being investigated by the police in Norfolk, and who is now the subject of a criminal investigation into what he knew about sex trafficking. I'm afraid, despite how much we might not like Harry and Meghan, they're not as bad as him.
Now, Harry has had a disaster in court over the past 24 hours, Mike. So, we're both old tabloid guys, but I think we can both agree that some of the techniques that were used in the past were terrible. But of course, people have gone to jail for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at what happened with Andy Coulson and the News of the World and all of that. But Harry, in terms of this court case against the Daily Mail, was basically relying on a confession by a dude called Gavin Burrows. And this is one of the perfect examples of, like, you lie down with the dogs and you stand up and you get fleas, because Gavin Burrows really, well, all of these people involved in this case, how do I put it? Dodgy as fuck. Do you know what I mean? Convicted phone hackers, convicted criminals, have worked with this hacked off organization. There's a guy called Graham Johnson who's paying these people allegedly $97,000. Anyway, there is this particular piece of evidence which makes, I believe, fanciful claims over what the Daily Mail was apparently doing. You know, ridiculous things. We were both on Fleet Street. There was bad practices, but this is literally saying that people were like putting microphones in the front room of Elizabeth Hurley's house. Anyway, he says the whole thing was forged. The whole thing was forged. And you can actually see the signatures here. So they don't even look the same. Now, the problem is, this guy, Gavin Burrows, is effectively the number one witness that the Daily Mail is relying on. So the case is close to collapse. It was the last day of evidence. But Mike, he goes into court and he says the only story he ever pursued about Prince Harry was looking for Prince Harry's drug dealer in the nightclub China White. And look, we know Prince Harry must have had some type of drug dealer. I mean, he's admitted, hasn't he, to taking cocaine and psychedelics and magic mushrooms and marijuana over the years. But it's like, do you not understand, Harry? This is a PR disaster, because not only have you relied on criminals to bring this case against the Daily Mail, you've now got court evidence being given about your drug dealer.
Yeah. And also, we've seen a litany of different reporters, some of whom you will know, as I do. Nicole Lampert, for example, who's now very active in the pro-Jewish kind of alliance in London, but she's a reporter for the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday, who said, yes, we did report some stories about Prince Harry, but at the time, we were being fed those stories by Prince Harry's friends. We were not following him around and looking in his dustbins. We were actually being told things. I think she said she turned up at a party. Or was that that was another one, wasn't it? That was
Charlotte Griffiths, and he had actually given her, Mike, his mobile phone number on Facebook,
right? And gone, come to the party where there was all sorts of stuff going on. So he's clearly addled his brain so much with all the drugs he's taken that he doesn't remember how these people all knew everything that he was doing. He was absolutely out of control. And this is the same Harry, by the way, that was pictured, if you remember, famously in Vegas, naked, playing pool with a load of strippers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, nothing wrong with that. I'd much preferred him when he was less sanctimonious.
No, it used to be fun.
He used to be fun, didn't it? Good for you, mate. Stick one in there for the country. Stand up for Britain. But now look at him. It's a complete and utter disgrace.
But your message to the politicians who are trying to get us to fund Prince Harry's security, piss off?
Yeah, piss off. Yeah, we're not giving you any more money for anything, frankly. You've wasted all the money we've already given you. He's got loads. And if she claims to have sold 25 million quid's worth of jam, that pays for a few security guards, I think, doesn't it?
Exactly. If you're as successful as you claim to be, and they're trying to say today, Netflix haven't dumped us, like they're actually going to make some type of drama about polo. It's like, give it up. As you say, Mike, the grift is on. The grift is very much on. But look, do stand by, Mike, because we're about to reveal today's Union Jackass, and this is quite hilarious, actually. But first, I just want to get to some feedback. Thank you very much for the super chats today. 14 Barber, Steve Taylor, Scotty of John says, this is about the big battle on the British right. He says, at the moment, we're all at each other's throats and the left are building momentum, laughing at us as they go. I do see what you mean, but at the same time, I think the left are at each other's throats too. I predict that the Green Party under the tip whisperer Zach Polanski will soon be ahead of Labour, actually, in the polls. Helen O.D., who has been an Outspoken Plus member for 1 year, thank you, Helen, says, so he's pretending he cares about mass immigration, this is Matt Goodwin when he's flogging his book, but mocks the people who want to do something about it. Got it. Rachel W. says, I like Matt Goodwin, but Matt GPT is a hilarious nickname. Shala Maguire says Goodwin would love to be as bright. as Douglas Murray. Kath Lissington said, as I said to Matt Goodwin on X, we don't need another book. We can't afford another book, and especially not one telling us what we already know. And Karma Pop says, Rupert Lowe knows what he's doing and is the only one actually doing what he says. And of course, Matt Goodwin was one of the nominees for today's Union Jackass, the worst British in the world today. I nominated Matt Goodwin, but I have to be honest, I didn't think he'd have a chance because Mike Graham has gone for Ed Balls because he gave a disgusting interview on Good Morning Britain, actually, with Dove Foreman, who's a brilliant Jewish campaigner, where he was almost trying to justify what happened in Golders Green by referring to Nick Timothy's comments, and Dove Foreman just shut him down. And Mike Graham has also gone for Hugh Edwards, who has been subjected to a big Channel 5 drama tonight, and it was because he got the nerve to complain about that drama. So, Mike, I have to be honest with you, and I haven't fixed the results. I was just convinced you were going to win. I was convinced you were going to win. Like, you've got Hugh Edwards and Ed Balls. Right. But they've got a dead heat, Mike, as the runners-up with 31%. And Mike, Matt Good, or apparently that's just changed. So I don't know who's in third place. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Hugh Edwards. Oh God, this is a bit morally wrong. Hugh Edwards is in third place with 31%. The pedo, the BBC pedo. Ed Balls, runner-up with 32%. But look, Matt Goodwin, the winner, today's worst Britain in the world today with 37%. And I think it is because, Mike, people are annoyed at what he's saying about Restore Britain. So,
I know. But it's not great news for his political career, is it? That you've basically beaten the paedophile Hugh Edwards, who was sending pictures of his backside to a teenage boy.
Sundry. Yeah, exactly, to teenage boy.
While he was reading the news, right? While he was reading the news, okay, during it. Anyway, next up, we're going to go over to Kiev. And we're going to talk to our man on the scene there as he describes the difficulty for people trying to dodge the bombs and bullets as they fly. Anyway, then he's going, here's a picture of my arse. It's unbelievable, right? So Matt Goodwin is more unpopular than this guy.
Yeah, today only. Yeah. But yeah, I think he's run a lot of people up. But Mike, can you please reveal who your greatest Briton is?
Well, we've been talking about the royal family, and this one might be a bit controversial. As you say, you're a royalist, so am I. And I've previously been quite critical of this particular individual because of the way that he's a bit woke, he's a bit green. He stood in front of Buckingham Palace that time. I think it was the Jubilee, where they'd had all those kind of, jungle-like sort of plants and foliage all over Buckingham Palace, and he's like, we've got to save the planet, man, And he's also lived a life of privilege. But because of what he said back end of last week, Prince William, when he came out and deliberately said, look, I believe that I want to be the faith leader of the Church of England, and that may not sound like a big deal, but given the way that his father has been carrying on in the past 20-odd years, basically saying that, I'm the leader of all faiths, and, happy Eid, and, Eid Mubarak, and, let's go down to the mosque and, pray and all that crap. William has actually said, look, the Church of England is important. I believe in it. I've had a journey. I wasn't particularly religious, but I want to be, as the next king, the representation of the Church of England as the head of state. And I think that's a great step in the right direction in a week when we've had very few steps in the right direction.
I like that a lot, and I thought it was a really good thing for him to do, actually, to clear all of that up. Well, look, Mike Graham, I'm very excited because I am going to be with you for the first time ever. I've been desperate to do this for years on Plank of the Week, the original Plank of the Week, the best Plank of the Week, the only Plank of the Week that you should watch. And to watch that, please do subscribe to the Mike Graham Show on YouTube. And of course, it will be made available on Friday, won't it, Mike?
It will indeed. Friday at 7 p.m. Yeah, that's when we do it. So,
but of course, Mike is live from 7 a.m.
I'm excited to have you on. And because of the way that we do it now, a bit like yourself, we found actually that it's more. We like the look of it better if you're actually down the line rather than in the studio.
Okay,
but
good.
At some point or other, we must have you in the studio as well.
No, I'll love to come in. I'll get up early one day for you. Definitely, I want to check out your studio. But no, I'm watching the show. I absolutely love it. 7 a.m. till 9:30 a.m. live on YouTube, the Mike Graham Show. And it's so good because, as I said to you when we were talking all of those months ago, there needs to be an alternative to the mainstream media at breakfast time. It's such an important time for the news. People want to be watching live, and I really rely on it now. So I absolutely love it. So thank you for being here today, and I will see you for Plank of the Week on Friday. That is Mike Graham, host of the Mike Graham Show. Now we're moving across now to Substack for the Royal Uncancelled After Show. Angela Levin standing by. So much to discuss with her, of course, and you can join us there at www.outspoken.live. Please do also subscribe to our podcast. We're available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, totally free, and rate and review. That would really help us out. And I will be back with you live tomorrow, 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.